Well, the workbench is looking really good. Now, we're pretty close to the finish line, and after this video is over, we can call this bench finished. Now, I apologize for the lateness of this video this week, but I have been really busy with some commissions, and it is currently 10:30 p.m, so pretty much midnight in my book. I usually like to get to bed pretty early. Yes, I am a terrible young person, but I am filming this at 10:30. And you guys can't say I don't go the extra mile, so let's get into it. Now, at the start of this build video, I had always planned to flatten the workbench here, or the bench top I should say, using a router, so a power tool method. Now, it's a really good method. It's fairly quick. I mean, it takes a while, but it is quick. And it gets the job done really efficiently. But I've just discovered a few days ago that Mark Spagnolo, so the Wood Whisperer, had made one of his paid videos from the guild available to the public on his YouTube channel. So that goes into the exact process that I was going to be using to flatten this top, and into a lot more detail than I'm able to provide at this time, as I'm so pressed for time coming up to Christmas. So I'm going to put the router away, and I'm going to be showing you how to flatten this workbench using a hand plane. So your workbench doesn't actually need to be 100% flat. I mean, it's not a machine. As long as it's pretty flat, that's flat enough in my mind. So the hand tool method really relies on two things, well, three things really. A hand plane, which has a fairly long sole, so a number 7 is perfect, and number 5 you'll be able to get it done as well. And also a straight edge, so that will tell us if there's any obvious high spots or low spots. And the other thing you need is a little bit of energy, because it will take a while and it will take it out of you. Now, this is just a method that I've sort of developed by myself, so you know, just playing around with hand planes and then seeing what works best for me. So keep that in mind when you're watching it, that this may not be technically correct, but it works for me, and at the end of the day, if it gets the job done, I'm happy with it. So the first thing that we want to do is take our straight edge and actually sight along the length of the bench and just check for any low spots or high spots along the length, because we do want to get them sorted out before we start planing. Now, I've already checked this and my workbench is pretty good. Once we've determined that, the other thing we want to do is go along the width of the board and see if we've got any really badly high or low spots again. Now, I've actually done this already, and I have determined that the width of my bench has a very slight double concave shape. So if you're a surfer, you'll know exactly the shape I'm talking about. But pretty much the outer edges and the middle lamination is slightly higher than the rest. So not really a bad thing for planing, because that means that our hand plane is going to be sort of riding on the high spots until it gets down low, so that's fine. But once we've determined and found any high spots or low spots, and of course if we find any, we'll mark them with a pencil, that's when we start planing. Now, my workbench is pretty damn straight to begin with, so there's a slight concave in the middle here, but that's all there is. It's very straight along the length. So I don't actually have to remove any high spots before I start planing, but say that you did have a really high spot somewhere around here, before we start the diagonal passes, you'll want to come and just knock those bits off. Now, because there's so many different grain directions in this board, I've made sure that my plane is very sharp, and I've also ensured that I'm taking a very light cut, because I want to minimize the amount of tear out. Now, to start, all I'm going to do is start taking diagonal passes across the width of the board along the entire length. Now, I did forget to say one thing prior to this, but before you start your diagonal action, take your plane and actually put a chamfer, a couple of passes on the edges of your bench, and this will help prevent tear out as well. So that first pass in this direction taken, I'm going to come back and go this direction, so the opposite direction. And then now we'll just keep alternating this pattern here, so corner to corner, until we're starting to get longer shavings. So right now we're just taking off the high spots. Once we've got this down to the low spots, we can actually start looking at making sure that it is in fact nice and straight and nice and even. Now I was getting fairly good shavings along the length now, so this should probably be the last diagonal pass that we need to take before we can start straightening it up. Now that we're getting nice long shavings across the entire length, I'm just going to check with my straight edge for flatness pretty much. So as long as it's nice and flat along the width of the board, I know that our crosshatch sort of planing pattern has done its job, and it looks like it has. So we'll also check along the length, and just like we were before, I'm getting no light come through, so we are dead flat, which is pretty good. So now that I know that this is fairly flat across the width and length, I'm now going to come in and do a few lighter passes with the plane on a much sort of lighter angle, so it's almost going along the length of the bench. And this is just going to help tidy it all up and get rid of some of these deep planing marks. Okay, so with the top now flat, I'm going to come in with my block plane and I'm just going to sort of establish that chamfer that we put on earlier. So do a couple of passes. So to me, this is the stage which I call good enough. So along the width of the bench, it's pretty much flat. There might be one or two low spots, but it really doesn't matter. Along the length of the bench, it's also pretty much flat. Now, on my particular bench down the end here, it sort of drops off a little bit, but in my mind, it's not worth taking a millimeter off of the entire length here to bring it to be dead flat with something that is only about 150 millimeters long, or that's probably about 6 inches, I think. So in my mind, it's not worth bothering about something that small, because at the end of the day, if I'm using my bench for assembly, I'll just make sure that I avoid the last 6 inches of this tabletop, because I know it's not quite dead straight. Now, of course, if you don't like the idea of doing a workout to get your bench flat, do check out that video I mentioned earlier, because it is a good method. I've used it before and it does work a treat. Okay, so with our bench flat, what else is left to actually get this thing finished? Well, we could call it done here, but we do want to kind of protect all of our hard work. So we want to apply a finish to protect the surfaces. Now, we use a lot of glues, we use stains, we use finishes on our workbench. So we want a finish that is going to be fairly durable and which we can actually wipe those things off of and not damage. So to me, the best option for that is something like a polyurethane, and in fact what I use for my benches is a outdoor polyurethane that you would use for timber decking. Now it's quite a thick coat, so I generally only apply one coat and rub it down afterwards, and that just makes sure that it doesn't get too high of a build. But before we do that, let's also just do a few finishing up touches and make sure that our bench stays in good shape for as long as possible. Okay, so on all of the sharp edges on our workbench, we want to knock them off, because if we bump a workpiece into it, it's very likely that we're going to get a bit of chipping of the grain. So I've already gone around the outside edges with my block plane and added a chamfer by hand. But what about our dog holes here? We want to actually protect our dog holes from getting damaged, because as it is, I've used this a few times for this week and I've already got a bit of chipping happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my plunge-based router with a chamfering bit, and I'm just going to come around and carefully add a small chamfer on all of my dog holes. So the router bit, as you can see, is only protruding by a very small amount. This is a soft start router, so that means when I start it with the router bit in the hole, it will start slowly and I'll still be able to have good control. So obviously don't be doing this if your router isn't a soft start model. So that's what. The finish that I'm using is a decking and timber lesieur. So it's just a polyurethane, which is sort of a hardened formula. Now, this I have made a mistake when purchasing, and it actually has a stains or pigment in it, which will make this slightly, I guess it will make it slightly browny yellow, which is a bit sad because I actually really like the look of the nice white pine, but I've opened this can, I can't take it back, and this is a workbench after all, so I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm going to cry a little bit, but I'm going to make it slightly yellow. So before we get staining, I'm just going to remove the parallel vise here so I have good access to the leg. Then really on the end cap there, so where the end vise comes through, I'm just going to be careful, and if I do get anything on it, I'm just going to wipe it with a clean rag right away because I can't really be bothered removing that vise. Okay, so that's about it for the construction. So I've got finish on every surface that I could get access to, and then tomorrow I'm going to come back, I'll flip the bench on its side, and I'll just finish putting some finish on the underside here because we do want it to be nice and even. Now that's pretty much it for the construction of the bench. So we've just got to put the vise back in, we've got to make a handle and things like that for the leg vise, but at the end of the day, those sorts of things are self-explanatory. I don't think they need to be shown in a video. So I've got a running total here, which I've been keeping track of how much I've spent on this build exactly. And at the end of the build here, which includes everything, including the vices, hardware, the only thing I haven't included is the cost of the finish, because that does depend on what you use. I have spent a whole lot of $224.76 on this bench. So let's say that you spend about $20 on the finish and round it up, we'll say $250. We've got this awesome workbench which will last you a lifetime. So a really nice budget-friendly bench considering how long it will last you. Now I know I said this would be the last video, but this is the last construction video. We do want to do one more video where I actually show you the ins and outs of the bench. So we'll just show you how the leg vise works. So with that parallel mechanism, we'll go into the wagon vise details and how you can use it, hold fast, how to, just how to use it and make the best sort of use of your bench. Now, if you weren't aware, George's Woodshop is having a fundraiser throughout the month of December and going into January, where we're hoping to gain enough funds to upgrade our podcasting equipment. So the main thing we want to do is get new audio equipment. So get rid of this sort of big, punky plastic thing that you can hear all the background noise, and get some nice professional lapel microphones and transmitters. And if the fundraiser goes really well, it would be great to also get a new camera and maybe a few new lights. So if you want to get involved in that, and it's greatly appreciated if you do, just head over to my website, so georgeswoodshop.com, click on the donate page, or just click on one of the banners which you'll see, and that will take you to a page where you can specify how much you'd like to donate. So there's no maximum, there's no minimum, and you can also set up a monthly recurring donation, which is awesome and really appreciated, because that means that you're helping keep the lights on in the workshop, but also helping keep the content coming to the podcast. So a huge thanks to everyone that has donated so far. So I actually didn't expect I'd get this many donations so quick. So huge thanks to everyone that has donated. That's it for this video. So if you weren't aware, George's Woodshop is a weekly woodworking podcast. So click that subscribe button down there to stay up to date with all my new videos. On top of that, I'm also on Facebook, so facebook.com/georgeswoodshop. Head over there, like that page, because you'll see a lot of photos and behind the scenes things and video clips and all sorts of stuff, which I just post up there. And you guys will get to see more and more of George's Woodshop. And so thanks for watching. It's 1 AM, so I'm going to go and have a nice cold beer and then go and sleep. So yes, sleep is a good idea. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.